Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of In the Pit with Lobo Tigre. We're filming on location today in Vancouver at the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium. I hope we'll see many of you here, but for those who can't make it, here you go. We're bringing you a bit of the show. With me today is George Paspalas. He's the CEO of MAG Silver. This is a high-profile silver story many of you are aware of. There's just so few big, high-grade silver deposits in the world, so it's always of interest when somebody's got one. Now, this one's been a long time in the making. I'll let George tell us about what MAG is working on, and then I'll get into my questions. George?
Thank you, Alex. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. We're very fortunate at MAG. MAG in 2003 IPO'd the company. We had an exploration theory in the Fresnillo Trend, the most prolific silver district in the world, and on our very first hole we discovered the Juanicipio vein.
I didn't know that. Very first hole.
Hole JU001. Very first hole.
That never happens somehow.
Very rarely anyway.
Yeah.
But fortunate for us. And but you know, 2003, 4, 5 are difficult times in the mining sector, particularly for financing of a junior exploration company. The company ended up joint venturing with Fresnillo PLC, the world's largest silver producer, also the owner of most of the tenements in the Fresnillo Trend.
Right.
And the joint venture was formed with Fresnillo, 2005. We then discovered the Valdecañas vein, and what do you say, the rest is history. The Valdecañas vein has now been proven to be the top of a fluid upwelling zone. Lewis, interesting. Not only was it hole 001 that was a discovery hole, we also discovered the second only known source. The geologist's dream is to find the source of the metals.
Right.
So Valdecañas is sitting on top.
Right, you have the gold, silver on top, and then you've got the base metal.
The base metals
rich.
lower, and in this particular case, because it's the fluid upwelling zone, we also have copper. And
so it's the entire system preserved.
From where it came into this area of the crust, all the way to the top of the vein. So it's unique, which uniqueness brings with it remarkable economics. And I'm going to tell you about the Juanicipio project, the Valdecañas vein, and what a wonderful financial asset that is. We found over 250 million ounces of silver on the property, well over 1 million ounces of gold, over 1 billion pounds of lead, over 2 billion pounds of zinc, a couple of 100 million pounds of copper so far, and we've drilled about 5% of the surface area of the joint venture ground.
You sound like Carl Sagan, millions and billions.
Well, 1 billion would be a nice number, 1 billion ounces of silver on this property. And so whilst we're now working with our partner, the joint venture operator Fresnillo, to bring the Valdecañas vein into operation at the end of 2020, which will be most likely the largest silver producing asset in the world, we're continuing to explore. And we're seeing quite significant growth in the deeper resource at Valdecañas. And at some point in time, we want to step away from our success and drill some of the other targets on the property, because they are beaming like hole 1. Drill me, right? Drill me. But we're having so much success where we are,
right.
It's hard to break away from it. So look, we're in a great place. Our balance sheet's in good shape. We have no debt. We've got cash to get us well into next year and towards starting the plant up. And then the cash flows that come off this asset, particularly in the first few years, because as you alluded to, the top of this system's where the silver grade's the highest, the cash flows are quite significant, particularly for MAG's first operation. We're going to be in a remarkable position in 4 or 5 years' time in terms of a great asset, potentially expandable, and a lot of cash flow that we need to go and work out what to do with.
Right. All right. Well, let's start with economics, because
Sure.
We're building a mine with our partners. And one of the things that's always struck me about this is that there's no formal bankable feasibility study.
No.
And in my experience, I have to say, when I've seen companies build a mine without going that, something often seems to crop up that was unexpected, bites them on the posterior. It's never been a good thing in my personal investment experience. On the other hand, obviously, you have a major partner who's quite satisfied to go ahead and build this mine and pay most of the freight.
Right.
So what are you at liberty to tell us about their internal numbers and how good are those? What's
sure.
the level of confidence an investor can have in the feasibility work done here?
Right. Investors need to forget about feasibility study because the Valdecañas vein runs into the Herias vein as it goes off the joint venture ground, and on that sits the Saucito mine that Fresnillo operate. So since 2008, they've been operating this same vein. In 2014, they expanded it. They doubled the capacity of what they were mining and processing at Saucito. So rather than a feasibility study, our view, along with Fresnillo's view, is here we have a 10-year live study. Right? It's an operating mine, a very successful mine. As I said, it's the world's largest primary silver producer at the moment. And given the fact that we know this is the one continuous mineralised system, we're very confident that the PEA that we've done with an independent engineer released in December of 2017, the economics in that are quite robust, but they're very conservative. The joint venture itself did do an internal feasibility study purely for the purpose of making an investment decision, because that's the requirement of the joint venture agreement between the two of us. That wasn't released because one of the situations with Valdecañas is more than 50% of the resources are inferred. And what we're building now based on the PEA is a mine that's going to show extraction of the inferred. The conversion of inferred to reserves in the Fresnillo trend for the last 150 years has been over 94%. So we're not worried about the inferred category. But the problem with a feasibility study is it shows an internal shaft to nowhere because you can't count. And so we felt it was misleading to an investor.
Right. By 43101 regs, you cannot include inferred resources in a feasibility study. Only upgrading your measured and indicated to proven and probable. So I understand.
So our decision was leave the PEA as the valid technical report on the property because it shows the extraction of the complete mineralised envelope. The problem with a feasibility study is it's going to cut it off there. So yeah, but forget all that. The real thing is there's 10 years operating history on the same rock, the same vein, by probably one of the best operators in the world.
All right, so to be fair, I get that, I understand. And to drill the whole thing off from the surface would be a whole nother nightmare. You're down in there now, and presumably your drilling now is confirming the model, and you can speak to that. But I have to say, the Rubicon story was sort of like this. It was the guy who worked at Goldcorp, 7 kilometers away, same mineralization, it was going to be great. And they built the mine, spent $500 million and got down there and it wasn't what they thought.
Sure.
So what can you tell us? I mean, you've driven down into it. You're in the ore body now, in the area.
Yep.
And is it looking like what you expected? Any surprises?
There are surprises, and they're to the upside. The thing to make a point here, Lewis, is that the Rubicon mineralised system and the epithermal vein system in Fresnillo are different.
Okay.
In Fresnillo, the veins are typically 3, 5, up to 30 metres wide, and they run from 1, 2 to 8 kilometres long. So if you've hit them a few times, you're genuinely in it. Now, because we're on a fluid upwelling zone...
Sorry, we have to pause and say how extraordinary it is. I mean, usually you're very happy if you can get a vein to be consistently a meter or two wide.
That's right.
When it's high-grade underground mining. So this is a rare deposit.
It's unique, right? It's a gift, and we treat it like that. So that's why we've been very careful not to do any crazy M&A and things that'll impair the value of this asset. And so a lot of people in this company have got a lot of grey hair, been through cycles before, had to do the tough stuff when metal prices were very low. We're not going to repeat that here. We have a great asset. We're not going to encumber it with anything else. That width and the angle, it's quite steep, 63 degrees, gives us very good mining costs. The fact that it sits on an upwelling zone, and right on where the upwelling zone area is it's had repeated mineralisation. Right. So going back to your, that's called Rubicon example, but when you have a very defined structure right? It's either black or white, whether you're in the vein, and the vein's been repeatedly mineralised. The grade is so high and homogeneous, we're pretty sure it's there. Now, since November of 2013, we've developed over 23 kilometres of ramp systems down to the mineralised area. We're into the mineralised area.
Do you have crosscuts through it?
Correct, and we have faces ready to be mined. In our corporate presentation, there's a slide there with Dr. Peter McGaw, the founder, kissing that vein at the top of that.
Well, he should.
Yeah, well, he
made him a rich man.
He waited. Well, Peter will argue that. He's waited 13 years to see this thing, and he saw it and kissed it just at Christmas of 2015. Now, where I made that glib comment about are there any surprises? Yes, there is to the upside. Again, if you go to our corporate presentation and you see the Fresnillo trend in this area, all of the epithermal veins, they're red lines on a planned shot of the area, run generally east to west. And that's how they've occurred for 500 years, and that's how they've been explored for during that time. As we started to mine down, we hit different structures running a different orientation. And so what we've found now is we found two things. The first one was typically those east-west veins are 300 or 400 metres high in mineralisation, and then the mineralisation stops. 2015, we put 4 holes underneath our bonanza zone because the objective was to sterilise it so we can go and try some of those other very attractive targets we have. And that's where we found the deep zone, going from 6 in some areas to 30 metres wide. Great base metal grades, copper coming in, gold continuing through the whole system. First surprise of being there and drilling deeper. Second surprise was as we were developing down, we started to see structures running generally north-south. Our geologists then came back and looked at this. They looked at the surface. They discussed with Fresnillo. Fresnillo agreed. And then in March of this year, we announced the discovery of the Venatus 1 and 2 veins, which are north-south structures. Now, we don't know the extent of these at the moment. They're very high in the system. They're like 3 metres wide, very good gold and silver grades. We're drilling those deeper now. We'll see where that goes. But, this story just gets more remarkable because here we are going to be mining the highest grade undeveloped silver property in the world. And now we've found these structures coming off where we're mining that we don't know the extent of those. We've found other east-west structures, 80, 150 metres, running parallel to the Valdecones vein.
Just to help the audience out here, if you have veins that go this way, you drill them perpendicularly to define them. But if you also had veins going this way and you're drilling this way, you could miss those veins that go the same direction as your drill holes entirely.
That's right. That's right. And so when we discovered the top end of these north-south structures in the development drives, we then turned the drills and drilled that way. We had a hit. We're now drilling from surface. Again, this isn't one of those targets we want to go and drill elsewhere on the property. This is right where we're mining. So here we've invested the capital in getting down there. We've invested the capital in all of the underground infrastructure to mine. We've invested the capital in the plant. We find X million more ounces of silver. We have to spend 20 metres of development, 100 metres of development to access those new stopes. It's remarkable value creation. It's unbelievable. So it's a truly special asset, and we feel very fortunate that we're at MAG.
All right. So we're building this mine. We have stopes already ready to go, but we're talking late 2020. Why the time? And
well, we have to build the process plant. So
you can't just process it at Fresnillo?
I think those plants are pretty full, and I think with the grade of this one, you have to be careful about commingling, because in the early days, the grades coming out of the Valdecones, you can check on our PEA, but they're going to be 600, 700, 800 grams. There'll be days of multiple kilos per tonne of silver, and you don't really want to be blending that with significantly lower grade material. Also, given the nature of being on a fluid upwelling zone, given the fact that we've found these other east-west structures, these north-south structures, I think we'll be building more facilities to process. So it's better to have it logistically in the one area.
Sure. And I guess if you have a long mine life anyway, why truck stuff for 20, 30 years?
That's right.
Yeah. All right, that makes sense.
We're crushing the material underground. It's coming out on a conveyor. The conveyor only daylights right in front of the fine ore bin, in front of the SAG mill. It's great security of that high grade ore. It's a really good setup.
And the good news is that if you can go ahead and start stoping while you're building the plant, then you get ahead of the curve. You have some stockpile. You have a lot of faces to deal with variability that happens in the mine plan. Right. All that good stuff.
And again, this is a great point. If you look at our PEA, there's a 3-year ramp up until we get to nameplate production. If you look at the Sasito mine, when Fresnillo brought Sasito 2 on, it took them about 5 months to get to nameplate. So we need to have that stockpile ready, because I don't think we're going to take 3 years to ramp up, because it's the same rock that they've been mining for over 10 years.
And if it's higher grade than what they're mining, then they're going to be gung-ho to push it ahead.
I would be.
They would be. All right, so let's talk about the money then. We're headed towards first pour, and are we fully funded through that, or are we almost there? I mean, are we covered for contingencies, or what's?
We're there to build it. Do we have enough to get through the working capital period? It depends on what the build's like. Fresnillo have a reputation of building mines under budget. It's a good time to be building a mine. So we'll see how we go. We're very comfortable about the financing of the mine. As I say, we may be fully funded to get right to commercial production. If not, there could be a little gap. We're not too worried about it.
But it starts throwing off cash before you declare commercial production.
Correct. Correct. So that's why we're very relaxed about the financing of this operation.
So you just kind of scale back exploration and other activities until we get to cash flow?
No, we'll keep exploration's quite effective there. So we're comfortable with what we got. Do we need a little gap at the end? We're not sure. Let's see how the contracts come in for the build. Let's see how the build goes. And then, come later next year, do we need a little something? Do we sell some of that ore? There are many opportunities here for us, so we're very relaxed.
By the way, does the JV cover the entire property, or just that core area where you have the defined resource? And is there more upside for you outside that, or where do we stand there?
Yep, the joint venture covers the entire joint venture claim, which is about 8 kilometres wide and about 17 kilometres long. Fresnillo own most of the ground around that. So MAG's opportunities in this area are limited to the joint venture ground, but as I said, we've only built 5% of the surface area, and we see targets out there that are beaming drill me.
So if all goes well, when after production 2021, do you go after those other ones, or?
No, it's just we would like to get to drill those now, but we can't get away from every time we sink a hole and we go, holy smokes. We need to follow this up.
What a problem to have.
It's a Hollywood problem. It's a Hollywood problem. But as you said earlier, this is a very long life asset. So we've got lots of time to go and find that. I mean, we currently have more than 20 years of mine life in the PEA we released in 2017. We've had significant step-out success in Valdecanes. We've now found the north-south. We've now found pre-Anticipata and Anticipata. They are new parallel veins to Valdecanes. God, I don't know what the mine life is now, but it's a big number, right?
So nature keeps giving you all these bounties, and it seems like the universe has to balance things. On the other hand, we have AMLO now, who is scaring investors about Mexico. What can you tell us about the working environment in Mexico? Has there been anything from the ministry on your project since it's high profile? It seems like the sort of thing that could become a political football.
Look, we haven't seen anything. Fresnillo is the operator of the face of the property down there. They do a good job managing government relations and communities, the environment, everything, right?
So they interface with the community. So does the community even have a perception that gringos are coming to steal our gold, or is it just a Mexican mine as far as they know?
Fresnillo, the operator, right? So that's the way people see it. Look, I think the Mexican economy is very complex. There's a lot of issues in there. Look, I just think as time goes on, there needs to be investment. There needs to be foreign investment. And one of the things about the relationship between AMLO and Canada is over the course of his time, that has strengthened. So, and you know, the largest investor in mining in Mexico is absolutely Canadian mining companies.
And here we are, not quite a year in, but I have to say he's rocked the boat a bit more on the oil patch side, but it doesn't seem like doing anything aggressive on the mining side is really on his agenda, as far as I can tell. We'll see. It's the sort of thing that makes investors nervous, so I have to ask. But as far as your experience on the ground, there's been no change. You know, the changing of the guard in the ministry, the new bureaucrats haven't slowed down the permitting, nothing that you can notice. No visible difference.
Other than there's a natural slowness in the way things happen when government changes, as new people come in and get their knees under the desk, etc. But other than that, no.
All right. Okay, so first pour by the end of 2020. What are the milestones between now and then? What is going to add value for shareholders besides silver going up, right? Which we all know we're looking at. But in terms of your own mileposts, what do investors have to look forward to between now and then?
Well, I think we have some long-standing loyal shareholders, and I can't wait to show them pictures of concrete footings and structural steel going up. You know, we ordered the mills, the flotation cells, all the long lead process equipment in December of last year. That's going to start arriving to site at the end of this year. And so, you know, good construction photos showing here it comes, the cash flow is coming. I think that's going to be value creating for us because, you know, we're going to start to re-rate as a producer, I believe, as we get into this. I think there's going to be, I'm hoping that there's going to be some good drill results from the drilling we're currently doing on these north-south structures call it the Valdecanes system. And then at some point in time, we're going to drill outside that. And boy, if we could announce a new vein discovery away from that, I think that would be great for shareholders.
You make people jealous. God's already given you enough blessings.
Well, look, it's a truly remarkable area. I mean, it's 1 ounce in every 10 ounces of silver on the planet has come from the Fresnillo trend. And we just happen to be sitting on a fluid upwelling zone. Doesn't get any better than this.
How did Peter or whoever got this property in the first place, why did Fresnillo not have this locked up? It's probably history, we don't need to get too much in there, but I'm just curious, how did you even get this in the first place?
The property was in the government, ready for distribution in the late 1990s. A friend of Peter's got it.
Won an auction?
In an auction, yeah. And
okay.
Yeah, then Peter land swapped this individual actually for some other property. And I don't know how that's going, but this one's going pretty well. And yeah, as I said, we IPO'd in 2003 and the rest is history.
All right, you mentioned your loyal shareholders, and it's probably worth adding here that your friendly partners actually attempted a hostile take underbid a few years ago in 2008 or whenever when the market was down, and your shareholders fought them off.
Yep.
So this I think is important because as you approach first pour, you know, the question might come into people's minds, well, they own 60%, why don't they try to grab 100%, cut us off on the upside? But we already know that your shareholders are not interested in being taken out in any kind of lowball offer.
Well, certainly a lowball offer. And, you know, I think at the end of the day, any shareholder, any board, any CEO needs to look at, you know, a good, healthy premium offer. So I wouldn't say never.
Say never,
right?
Okay.
No.
I got it.
Yeah, and it's a special asset.
Okay.
Right, so I'm
okay,
sure
we're good. We only have a little bit of time left,
Sure.
so I have to ask the one question I always ask everybody, and that is the skin in the game question.
Sure.
How much of your own money have you put into this that you have at risk alongside your shareholders? Not free options you got, but how much of your own money have you put into this?
So I've purchased with my own cash about 207,000 shares in MAG. Which for a family man with 3 young kids living in Vancouver, that's a lot of free cash flow going to MAG. But I saw the opportunity when I joined the company and at other occasions during that time to
Are you in the money at current share prices?
Yeah. And you know, I tend to convert performance share units, etc., into shares as well because I believe, you know, the equity lift you're going to get at MAG in the long term well, it's much better than cash in the bank, but you know, it's a very sound investment for me. So yeah, I'm probably overweight in MAG for my net worth, but it's a unique story. It's a special story, I believe.
Okay, there you have it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Bye.